wins Flanders, is second in Roubaix, would have normally gone toe-to-toe with Van der Poel on a terrain which is not his terrain. So with this condition, it's fair to say that for a race like Amstel Gold Race, which is his terrain, or more his terrain, I would say Liège is still more his terrain, but I think it's logical. I'm always picking Pogačar. This time I'm going to pick Remco Evenepoel. He's obviously in great shape. We'll have to see what that compares to with Pogačar, of course.
Hi, I'm Spencer Martin, along with Johan Bruyneel, and this is Outcomes. Outcomes is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this podcast should be considered financial advice. Please gamble responsibly, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, seek help from a professional resource. Hosts and guests may have financial interest in the bets discussed. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Everybody, welcome back to Outcomes. I'm Spencer Martin. I'm here with Johan Bruyneel. We are predicting the 2025 Amstel Gold Race. But before we do that, before I list the odds and Johan tells us how it's going to play out and who's going to win, we want to take a second to talk about yesterday's race, the Brabantse Pijl. It's kind of a warm-up race to Amstel Gold, quite a bit shorter, like 100 kilometers shorter almost. But Remco Evenepoel, some interesting things happened. Remco Evenepoel, first race back from his layoff from injury, nuked the field with, if I'm remembering correctly, 50-ish kilometers to go. Nobody could stay on his wheel except Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert looks strong, starts to get weaker as time goes on. Remco looks like he's getting stronger. And then, Johan, I'm still shocked that this happened. I thought for sure Wout van Aert was going to win that sprint, but no. Remco Evenepoel sprints from the front and takes the win. Looks pretty impressive. I mean, what were your takeaways from this performance?
Yeah, well, first of all, a little correction, Spencer. It's Brabantse Pijl, so it's not Brabantse Pijl. So Brabant is a province in Belgium, but you're excused. You're not supposed to know this.
What? It's French. There's a French version of the province and a French one. French and Flemish.
Yeah. It's a mixed province, so they speak both languages there. But Brabantse, you should say Brabantse Pijl because it's in the Flemish part of the province, and actually the home region of Remco Evenepoel. They passed very close to where he was, or where he lives, or where he was born. I was surprised to see. No, usually it's a race. Usually it was 200 kilometers. It's 160 kilometers now. Don't know the reason for that, but still hard enough. It was like I guess a little less than 100 kilometers, big loop, and then local laps of I would say 10 to 15 kilometers with several climbs. 2 cobbled climbs and then one other climb. Usually it's a hard race, but I mean, Remco, man, he's 6 months without racing. His first race back, he responds to, it was Van Aert and Tadej Pogačar who basically opened the attacks. He was there, responded to it, then Van Aert counterattacked, and finally Evenepoel and Van Aert went away. And then I saw also an impressive move of Joe Blackmore.
Yes,
young rider,
impressive.
Being able to bridge that gap to those two guys who were going full. That was huge class. Ultimately, he couldn't keep up with them when Remco did an acceleration, trying to drop Van Aert. But still impressive the way he bridged up to those two guys. And from then on, basically, it was those two against the peloton. We could see that they were going to stay away if they kept relaying each other, and they were. Normally you would think, okay, Van Aert is going to win this. The climbs are not hard enough, long enough for Remco to drop Wout van Aert. And initially, I would say, when the move went, Van Aert looked the strongest of the two. When Van Aert made the move, Remco was he made it finally, but he got dropped a little bit. And throughout the last 60 kilometers, it was the opposite. Remco got better and Van Aert lost strength. And I personally think it has a lot to do with the drafting.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
And if you look at the difference in size of Wout and Remco, it's unbelievable. It was like David and Goliath, Remco is so arrow, so small, so compact, and then Wout is big, big frontal area, and so I think that obviously was a disadvantage for Wout and an advantage for Remco, because when he's behind Wout, it's like riding behind a windscreen, basically. But still, I would still have thought that that Wout would have won in the sprint, but he was completely empty. He said he was very honest and open about it afterwards. Also, he said the last lap, Remco was the strongest, and I could feel that I was losing strength. And he said the only way I had a chance was that I stayed on the wheel and hoped that it was a short sprint, but not even. I don't even think it would have been a short sprint. Even if Van Aert starts the sprint, he had nothing left. I mean, I don't know what the reason is. We've seen now a few times that Wout in sprints, when it's almost guaranteed that he should win, he doesn't. Right? We saw the same thing at Dwars door Vlaanderen in Waregem when what's his name, Nielsen Paulus
won. It was really
right?
similar, actually.
So it was the same. Well, Van Aert started, but here Wout was not even able to come out of the wheel, and you could say, well, Paulus is fast, or at least in small. Remco is not known as a sprinter, although he has won sprints from small groups. But this is Wout van Aert, a guy who normally wins has won bunch sprints in the Tour de France. So, listen, all the more credit to Remco to race the way he raced, and also, and I've said this already several times in several podcasts, Spencer, these guys, especially when you're two, you know how strong the other guy is. So Remco knew that Van Aert was losing energy. You could also clearly see whenever he took a pull, it was just he passed because he had to pass, but he didn't drive the brake. It was Remco who kept the speed. And the fact that, the last climbs already on the cobbled climb, it's called, what's it called? I don't remember, the Moskestraat or something. The first two times, Wout was the strongest. I mean, that's his favorite terrain, like short, cobbled, steep climbs. And Remco is not really at ease on those. And Remco was struggling the first time. The second time, he was a bit better, but still, Wout was stronger. The last time, it was Remco who was the strongest. And Van Aert had to do everything he could to stay on the wheel. From there on, I think Remco knew that he had a chance. Normally he would try to drop him, but it was difficult, of course, if you're two guys, and it's still Wout van Aert. It's not just any rider. But man, what a comeback! What a comeback! Like straight away, first race, winning the Brabantse Pijl in his backyard, basically. What a day for him.
Yeah, he's like world's best at coming off training camps and just looking unbelievably strong. Luckily, Johan, you have me here. I have a PhD in going into finishes with people that have less power than me and losing that sprint. And I can tell you why this is happening. It's because you're not as fit as you normally are. I mean, I think Van Aert, like the reason we're seeing this is because he's just a little bit off where he would normally be. And like, especially where we saw him end of last year before that crash. I'd assume it's all related to that crash. Yeah. It disrupted his preparation for 2025. He's actually, I kind of feel bad for him because he's losing these sprints in fantastic fashion. And that's what we're focusing on. But no one's focusing on like, whoa, Remco just ripped off the front, dropped everybody. Wout van Aert could stay with them, which is not easy to follow that move. Tom Pidcock missed it, like Alexander Burrow, Nielsen Paulus, all those guys missed it.
Yeah.
Wout van Aert went with them. He's just a few percentage points off where he needs to be. And when that happens, you cannot win those sprints. Like no matter how theoretically strong you are, you're so on the limit, you can't do it. Also, Remco is so clever to do that. I mean, because you can see him, he almost pulls these people out and then asphyxiates them because he's thinking, well, if I can get this guy isolated for 50 kilometers, can you imagine the draft Remco's getting on? He must be
Van Aert is
behind
for him.
Yeah.
Remco basically gets a draft of anybody, right? But after behind Van Aert, it's massive. And on the opposite, Wout was basically eating a lot of wind. But Wout already lost this race another time in the sprint, to Tom Pidcock. Same thing. He also lost it in the sprint in a one-on-one. I think there were three guys together. Don't know if Alaphilippe was there or
it was
somebody
Matteo
else.
Trentin.
Could have been. Yeah, Trentin was there also. Yeah, maybe there were four guys. But anyway, Pidcock beat Wout van Aert. Now Pidcock, of course, we know he's fast. He already almost beat, or some say he did beat Van Aert in Amstel.
I went back and reviewed these tapes yesterday, Johan. It's actually a little less clear than I remember it being.
Yeah. But still, I mean, listen, it's great to see Remco back. You say, he's a master at coming back for 100% from training camp. So let's not forget he comes back from a big injury. Training camp is one thing, but he had to, and also he looks really fit. If you look at his body, he looks ripped, which is rare to see in Remco. You only see him ripped when he's really on high form. And so it means that he's on high form.
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny, like obsessing over the minutiae of people's bodies like this, but Remco especially, I feel like you can predict a lot based on how defined he is. I don't want to like make it sound like I'm criticizing his body, but when he's not at like the best, he does have a more rounded form than like, let's say, like, I feel like Van der Poel, you could put that guy on a bike in January, December, when he's going to look exactly the same. But Remco, he's like the ocean with the tides.
Exactly. Yeah. But he's ready now. He's ready.
They might have shortened this race now that I look at it, because from 2024 to 2022, they were not getting, you would say, like the big, I think people were skipping it in anticipation of Amstel. And then that's why they shortened it to try to get the stars. It worked because that was an awesome race. Did you notice when Remco attacked, Van Aert's on his wheel, smart, followed him. Pidcock was in front of him, and then just like he's caught off guard. Like by the time Remco's coming by him, he's like, oh crap, and can't get on the wheel. Just like little things like that with Pidcock. And we'll talk about this in a minute, but just it's like, come on, man. Did you not?
Yeah, but I think yesterday he just didn't have the legs, Spencer. And he was honest about it also. He said, I have trouble sometimes coming back from training camp, and that my first races are a bit more difficult and I have work to do. So he didn't look for any excuses.
Question for you. Do you remember Ruler Live? He sat up there and said, I didn't want to do the tour. Ineos made me do the tour. I want to be a one-day racer. And then he's not at Flanders. Not at Roubaix?
Well, I think there's an explanation for that. He focuses on the Ardennes, so Amstel, which he won. Flesh, don't know if he won that. He didn't win that, no? I don't think so. And then Liège, and then let's not forget, his team got an invite for the Giro, so he has to do the Giro, and he has to do the Vuelta.
Yeah,
he has to do both. So I think that's probably the explanation why he didn't do the Flemish Classics.
Isn't Wout doing both though, and doing the Giro?
Yeah, Wout is doing the Giro, but
I guess he's not doing Liège.
I think no, he doesn't do. I think he's going to stop now after Amstel, and then not do Flèche and Liège for sure. And I think that the Giro in Wout's calendar is probably still a pending commitment from last year.
I
think he signed. I think it's a financial reason.
I didn't thought about that. That's a very good point, Johan. So let's take a quick break for our sponsor, and then we will predict Amstel Gold, who's going to win on Sunday. Hey everybody, this episode is brought to you by Troscriptions. Here's a question to consider. What do you need right now on your path to health optimization? Well, whatever it is, if it's more sleep, better sleep, less anxiety, stronger immune system, I need all of those things, by the way. So I'm in the bucket of people that are interested. Well, you're in luck because Troscriptions has created a science-backed, pharmaceutical-grade, physician-designed, rigorously tested formula that delivers all of these solutions to you in a completely novel way. They use a buccal troche, which is a small dissolvable lozenge that's placed between the upper cheek and the gum. And because of this, it's extremely fast acting, taking 15 to 30 minutes because they infuse their ingredients right into your cheek, which is highly vascular and very close to your brain. This approach bypasses the digestive system altogether, leading to a faster onset and higher bioavailability compared to traditional oral supplements, which can take up to 2 hours to take effect. They can also give you an upset stomach. Take it from me, you don't want that. Triscriptions has physician-led formulas, pharmaceutical-grade quality, novel ingredients, precision dosing made in the U.S., and a diverse product line to take care of any problems you might have or anything you want, like enhanced focus, decreased inflammation, increased relaxation, making it easier to fall asleep, and a stronger immune system. So, Triscriptions has clearly created a new way to optimize your health. Give it a try at triscriptions.com/themove or enter the move at checkout for 10% off your first order. That's TROSCRIPTIONS.com/themove for 10% off your first order. Again, triscriptions.com/themove. All right, back to the show. All right, back from break. I'll list off the favorites on Unibet. We're not going to read very many of them because we think this is going to come from a select group. And then you're going to tell us how it's going to play out. It's a long race. I have it pulled up here, 255K. It's a monument distance, not technically monument. I believe it's the only World Tour race in the Netherlands, one-day race, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's known for not, I looked at all the climbs. It's like barely any climbs over a kilometer long, but it's almost 3,500 vertical meters. That's like 11 to 12,000 feet. And then I think the defining feature of this race is the turn. It's twisty turny. So if you're at the front, it's a lot easier than if you're at the back. It's like really test your positioning skills, your ability to kind of stay at the, like, glide as much as possible. Because if you're not, like, it's almost like that Glasgow Worlds, if you remember that, where the people at the front, it was a lot easier for them. Peter Sagan, still can't believe I saw this. He was like 100th position with 100K to go, like hanging on for dear life, like a Cat 5 in their first fast crit. It's kind of like that, where you have to be really positioned really well. So in the favorite, this is crazy. Yet again, Tadej Pogačar minus 182. I don't ever remember seeing negative odds for one days before this guy came along. Second, Remco Evenepoel plus 600. Crazy. Wout van Aert plus 1,600. Ben Healy plus 2,000. Michael Matthews plus 2,000, Thibaut Nies plus 2,000, Tom Pidcock, defending champion, plus 2,000. And then it's Maxime Van Hills, 2,500, Axel Laurence plus 2,800, Mateusz Skelmoza plus 4,000. And then the last one, I think it could be really play any factor, is Alex Aramburu at plus 5,000. Also Nielsen Palace, since he's won a race this spring, plus 5,000 as well. I think this is going to be a select group, but Johan, who do you think is going to win?
Yeah, I mean, I think these odds are logical. Pogačar negative, and then everybody else. I mean, the dominance he has shown until now, and especially if you look at, he wins Flanders, is second in Roubaix, would have normally gone toe-to-toe with Van der Poel on a terrain which is not his terrain. So with this condition, it's fair to say that for a race like Amstel Gold Race, which is his terrain, or more his terrain, I would say Liège is still more his terrain, but I think it's logical. I'm always picking Pogačar. This time I'm going to pick Remco Evenepoel. He's obviously in great shape. We'll have to see what that compares to with Pogačar, of course. Yesterday's race was a race with not the same field, not the same quality, but still, Wout van Aert is not just any rider. So obviously huge confidence, really good physical condition. And not being the favorite could be an advantage for Remco, and eventually could maybe take advantage of a surprise attack on the last climb. The course has changed compared to the last few years with the fact that the Kouberg is now the last climb.
And that's the hardest climb, right?
Well, it's not the hardest one, but it's, since it's after 250K, it's for sure it's the hardest one, because but there's many climbs, Spencer. This race is, if you, for those who have, if you've never seen it, or if you've never done it, it's crazy how it's a labyrinth. It's a labyrinth. You never know where you are. It's, even if you know the course, you still get lost, because it's crazy.
And it's not, the Limburg region is not big.
No.
And I posted a picture of like the map of the race on my newsletter yesterday, and it goes like, you're right. Like you would get lost if you tried to do this.
You cannot memorize it. You cannot memorize it. You have to, I remember as a cyclist and when I was the director, it was basically, we picked out 3-4 key climbs that, say, okay, here we are here. This is the one. And all the other ones is just another climb. You never know. You take a turn up, it's up, and you're always left and right. And it's a hectic race. I hope it's dry. I just checked the weather report. It looks okay, but there could be a possibility of rain in the final, although, it's a small possibility, because that changes a lot. But yeah, I think Remco has, he's the second favorite for the bookmakers, but he's my candidate to win at plus 600.
I mean, financially, he's definitely the pick. Like, full disclosure, I'll probably bet on him right after the show is over. Plus 600 for Remco Evenepoel in that type of form, hard to turn down. My concerns about Remco, never done this race before, which I haven't realized, does not typically do well in races like this with lots of turning. He's more of a straight line guy. Like, think of the Glasgow Worlds, just like couldn't even put himself in position. Maybe he's improved on that. Let's just assume he has. The Kouberg, you're right. It's at the finish, which is different. It crests to, I'm trying to remember this, 2.5K from the finish. It's kind of like plateau. So
and it drags a bit and then it gets flat. Yeah.
Yeah. And then kind of like a little down to the finish. With that in mind, thinking about that, it means that these guys, Pogačar and Evenepoel, who's the two best climbers in the world? These guys are two of the best. Pogačar is probably the best. Evenepoel is probably third or fourth. Yeah. Also, both great time trialists. So if you think, well, it's a climb with steep pitches at the end of a hard race, and then you have to solo to the line. Realistically, who's going to do that? It's those two. Like, it's hard to imagine.
The way I can see also, the way I can also see Remco win is actually being able to follow Pogačar and actually beating him in the sprint. That's not excluded.
It's yeah. I'm gonna have to take a minute. It's crazy we're talking about this because this is a guy like up to 2 years ago. We're like, well, he can't win unless he's solo, and now we're talking about a guy who could beat one of the fastest GC riders I've ever seen. Like, think of that explosion at the end of, what is that, stage 20 at the Tour last year, where Pogačar looked like he was a grown-up racing against kids when he was sprinting on top of that mountain. But you're right. Based on what we saw, like, that is in the cards. And so at plus 600, it does make sense. It worries me. He's never done this race. I'm going to do Tadej Pogačar. Yeah. And also, Remco has this great move where he attacks, pulls people out, isolates them, puts them in trouble. But that's kind of his only move.
Well, and that's also something he can't do with Pogačar.
Exactly. And that's why he's never really beaten Pogačar.
That game won't work with Pogačar because, I agree.
And the big question I have is...
So you're picking Pogačar then?
I'm picking Pogačar, and even at that terrible value. But we saw it like Lombardia last year, where Pogačar attacks, and it's obvious. It's like, this is the moment. And then Remco does not try to, like Matteo Jorgensen always follows and then blows up. Yeah. I think eventually it's like he's testing, like, can I do this? Can I do this? And eventually it might work. Remco doesn't really ever try to follow. And that's where I get concerned. Like, you're not pulling Pogačar back. You have to follow that move. I'm curious to see how this plays out. That would be my big concern.
The thing is, Remco. Spencer, we're now here speculating, about the Kouberg and this and that. The way we've seen the races and the way we've seen how those guys race, it's not going to come down to the Kouberg. It's a lot earlier.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point. With these guys, this could, and that's why we don't love where it's hard race for wild cards, and we don't love people further down the odds board, because if Pogačar or Remco tries to make this hard, or Ben Healy tries to make it hard from a long way out, you could have a small elite group at the finish. And you're right, it might not even come down to that at the end. Before we go to our wild cards, let's take a quick ad break, and then we'll get your take on who could possibly beat either of these two riders, if it's even in the cards. Hey everybody, this episode is brought to you by Manukora Honey. Are you looking for something simple and delicious to add to your wellness routine? Well, Manukora Honey, their Manuka honey, straight from New Zealand, is the perfect thing to add. I love Manukora Honey because its richness, creaminess, complexity of flavor, and health benefits. And it's not just me. My kids love it. We wake up early in the U.S. morning. We're in the U.S. right now. The bike racing's always on. I fire it up. The kids sit down. And the first thing they want is Manukora's Manuka honey because it is rich, creamy, and the most delicious honey they've ever had and I've ever had. I love it. I take a spoonful every morning. Gets me off to a good start. I also use it throughout the day. It really helps me replace those sweetness cravings I have where I might eat a cookie or something, a cupcake that's not that good for me. So if I replace that with Manukora's Manuka honey, I find that I feel much better and I'm taking in a sugar that I can release like at a much more, let's say, efficient way versus the sugar crash I might get from a cookie. And Manukora, their product, their Manuka honey, is ethically produced in the remote forests of New Zealand. It comes with infused with powerful nutrients to help support immunity and gut health. Their bees collect the nectar from the Manuka tea tree in New Zealand, and the nectar is packed with bioactives and produces 3 times more antioxidants than your average honey. It's a game changer. It's clear. All you need is 1 teaspoon every morning, and you'll feel better. So, if you're interested, head to manukora.com/themove to save 31% off plus $25 worth of free gifts with the starter kit, which comes with a honey jar, a special little fun wooden spoon, and you'll feel very cool when you scoop it out. It sounds silly, but I do love that wooden spoon. A guidebook, free honey travel sticks. I got this starter pack and I'm using it. I'm loving it. Again, that's manukora.com/themove to save 31% plus $25 worth of free gifts on your first order. Again, manukora.com/themove, manukora.com/themove, or check the show notes below. Okay, Johan. So Pogačar or Remco doesn't win. Somehow they get lost. They're both abducted. Who could win from this group?
Well, the third favorite is Wout van Aert. We need to keep respecting Wout van Aert for who he is, what he has done. After yesterday, I have my doubts he can win tomorrow. I'd rather pick Thomas Pidcock as my second favorite, although, yesterday he wasn't able to follow. But he's high class, top pedigree, won this race already before. It would have to be with a surprise attack, something at the end, or something needs to happen. But he's a smart racer. So at plus 2,000, Pidcock is my second card.
It is crazy. A guy with that sprint and the defending champion is at plus 2,000. And you start to run out of options really quick after the first two. It takes a little bit of magical thinking, but I think that's as good of wild card as any. The two ones I'm picking between, first one, I'm not picking this one. Ben Healy, you would think, wow, he's really strong. He could win. He's plus 2,000. But then you asked a very good question in the pre-show. How does he win? Well, Ben Healy likes to get in breakaways and then drop the breakaway companions and then solo to the win. That's not going to happen at Amstel. The win will not come from the breakaway. Could he attack on the final climb and stay away for the win? No, because he's not going to drop Pogačar. He's not going to drop out on a pole. I'm going to go with Michael Matthews, plus 2,000, kind of lurking this spring. And Matthews is a guy we just keep forgetting about. And then I think he almost won Milan-San Remo last year. He's just he almost won. He won the sprint in the chase group at Milan-San Remo this year. He won the sprint in the chase group at Amstel Gold last year. He's kind of like the first guy that always misses out, but he can climb really well and he can sprint really well. So just on that, I'm going to pick him at plus 2,000. If something gets weird, he could be a guy that benefits from that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's always and often he's there when nobody expects him.
Yes.
Especially Milan-San Remo. For some reason, Milan-San Remo is a race and it fits him perfectly. we don't see him in the races before, and boom, all of a sudden he's there, top 3, top 4. This is a race for him. Again, we haven't seen much that could, warrant to choose him, but it's Michael Matthews, so I think it's a good choice.
Like Tour de France 2022, stage 14, finished on, it's like the steep climb to the airfield, wins that stage, and you would never have expected him to win that. Like, he just has this ability to win these races, and you're like, where the heck did that come from? So
yeah. I'm
not saying I'm going to put a lot of money on it, but if you want to sprinkle a little bit of money on a potential wild card, that's a good one.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm trying to think of any other notes for Amstel. It's kind of an interesting race because it, like the course is set for Roubaix. The course is set for Flanders. This is a funny race because it is a sandbar. It just changes a little bit every year. Like if you remember in 2021, they had the circuit that made the race different. This year is going to be a lot different than even the past few years because they're changing the order of the climbs. It's quite curious to see how it plays out.
I haven't seen a detailed profile, but is the Keutenberg the second last climb? The one before the Kauberg?
I think it might be the Bemmelberg.
Oh, Bemelenberg. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's a bit different because before it was the Keutenberg and then the Kauberg. Keutenberg is really hard.
That's super steep. Third to last climb now.
Okay. That's where Pogačar goes. Now, if he hasn't gone before, that's where he goes. That's the hardest one by far.
Interesting. Do you think these guys will try to take it from extremely far out?
I mean, they do it in Flanders. They do it in Roubaix. I mean, on this course, it's even better because, it's one climb after the other.
Yeah.
There's nobody who can get the troops back together in between the climbs, especially if these guys go so early. So, why not?
I mean, think yesterday, Remco spent 30% of the race off the front with Ben Aert because it was only 150-ish kilometers long.
160, yeah.
And so, so they're confident. He's feeling confident that he can go from a long way out. I agree. It'd be hard to. I mean, even.
And also, you have to look at the field. I mean, this is okay. You have to say this is Pogačar and Remco who stick out and quality wise. Then you have Van Aert, and all the others. All the others need some kind of circumstances to be in the front. So I could perfectly see Pogačar and Remco go from far. And so then they eliminate every single circumstance they can't control. And then it's just man against man.
And there's no Mathieu van der Poel. So
exactly, yeah.
I mean, really, that's been the only rider that can beat Pogačar this spring. So without him, and then you substitute Remco in for, let's just say, the Van der Poel slot, it does seem tough to think anyone could stay with them. Yeah, and that is a good point. You just get rid of the variables you can't control. And who's pulling them back? That actually gets hard to imagine that a team.
Yeah, and let's not forget, when it's 250 kilometers, it's hard. So there's not that many riders who are able to do something beyond 200 kilometers. Then you get really into the top quality riders. There's not that many.
Yes, yeah, which is why these longer races are fun, because you get the cream rises to the top. Do you have anything else on Amstel Gold, Johan?
No, that's it. I hope for them it doesn't rain because it's a horrible course if it rains, but it's going to be an interesting race. Nice. It's a nice race.
If it does rain, I mean, I don't want to see it, but it's like, well, what was that, Liège 2023? And it's like, Pogačar crashed out before we even had television coverage. Like that's where the wild cards could come into play.
It's also, Spencer, it's also something we it's an important factor. It's a dangerous race also. There's always crashes. It's left, right. It's the Netherlands have this weird thing. I mean, if you look, have a look tomorrow and pay attention from helicopter shots, you will not believe how many parked cars are on the course.
Yeah, I have noticed.
It's crazy.
Why
it's crazy.
This?
I don't know if it's something with the law that they can't prohibit cars to park on certain neighborhoods because they go through a lot of neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy. There's so many cars on the side of the road.
Yeah, I never really connected that to the Netherlands, but it's like same thing with the Bink Bank Tour. It's not called the Bink Bank Tour anymore, but it's just like it's like the tour of parked cars, and you're like going through a neighborhood and there's cars everywhere. I've never fully understood that, but let's hope it doesn't rain. Let's hope no one hits a car.
Yeah,
and you guys will be on
tomorrow after the finish
of the race. Yeah, for the move. Well, thanks, Johan, and we will talk soon.
Okay, thanks, Spencer.
Bye.